If you're trying to decide between the iPhone 15 Pro Max and the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 and you don't know which one to pick in terms of camera performance, then this video will make that decision much easier for you. Let's look at some real-world examples between the two in different scenarios so that you can decide for yourself which one looks better. Not to spoil anything, but the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, which you're looking at right now, is an incredible camera. And if you're on the fence, just go buy it already. I promise you will not regret it. Plus, this thing is super easy to use, even if you edit videos on your phone or you just want to post some Instagram stories. But with that said, let's start looking at some comparisons. Starting out with the front camera on the iPhone 15 Pro Max. And even though these are near ideal lighting conditions, it is literally day and we're in the shade. There might be a little too much backlight over here, but even though we are in these near ideal lighting conditions, the front cameras on the iPhones are notoriously bad. So even right now, I expect the Pocket 3 to win, but what do you think? As you could see in the previous shot, the Pocket 3 likes to overexpose itself quite a bit. But it doesn't always do this, as you can see here. In this example, you can also see that the iPhone 15 Pro Max selfie camera basically has no background blur whatsoever. To me, the Pocket 3 footage looks so much nicer because it separates you from the background, and I like this so much that I even record most of my Instagram stories on this guy now. And what you're seeing now is the back camera, the 1x lens on the iPhone 15 Pro Max. I expect these videos to be very similar, but I still think that the Pocket 3 should have an edge, not only because I need to use my Apple Watch to see what my iPhone is recording, while the Pocket 3 has its own screen and I can see exactly what I'm doing right now, and that's a big plus. And as soon as the good light disappears, the iPhone actually falls apart a little bit, while the Pocket 3 really shines, but more on that in a moment. As expected, both of these cameras do really well, at least in good light. The DJI Osmo Pocket 3 has a significantly wider angle though. I actually don't have a clear favorite between those two, as both of them are better at some things than the other. But if you look closely, the Pocket 3 definitely has better image quality than the iPhone 15 Pro Max. It isn't as over-sharpened and the shadows have more details. And now let's look at some slow motion. Unfortunately, if you want to record at 120 frames per second, the iPhone can only record in 1080p. If you're watching this video on a phone, you may not be able to tell the difference. But if you're watching on a TV or another big screen, it is very easy to see how much more resolution the Pocket 3 really has. And that makes a huge difference in the amount of detail that you can actually see in the video. If you limit yourself to 60 frames per second, then the iPhone 15 Pro Max does really well and records in 4K. But so does the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, and overall I like the look of the wider angle lens. Nevertheless, I really don't have a clear favorite here, as both of these devices perform incredibly well even at 4K 60, which is insane. The next morning I got up at 5 AM so I could compare these two cameras in low light before sunrise. And now you're looking at the front camera of the iPhone 15 Pro Max at night. I expect all of these shadows to be very noisy. I expect details like this palm tree here to have, you know, no details basically, and the overall image to be incredibly soft. Meanwhile, on the Pocket 3, I expect all these shadows to be very controlled and that the details should be quite visible, that the lights are very controlled, and this is not even the low light mode. Here's another quick comparison. I think my face on the iPhone is completely dark. There's not much that you can see here. The Pocket 3 should do this much better. I think I have a clear favorite here, but you tell me. And now you're looking at the back camera of the iPhone 15 Pro Max. I once again expect these results to be significantly closer. Both of these cameras are pretty decent in low light, at least if you use the back camera of the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Nevertheless, I expect the Pocket 3 with a bigger sensor than the iPhone 15 Pro Max back camera to have a slight edge even in these scenarios. But you tell me, which one of the two do you prefer? When walking at night, you can really see the difference between these two devices. Not only is the image quality of the Pocket 3 significantly better, but it is also a lot more stable, doesn't have any of the weird wobble or light reflections on the lens. iPhones in general struggle with reflections on the lens at night, as you can see here. It also has some weird micro jitters, which I think are the results of stabilization and there just not being enough light. When not walking and just panning the cameras like this, both of them do really well. But the iPhone still has these annoying light reflections on the lens, and it doesn't quite reach the image quality of the Pocket 3. But considering the size of these two cameras, I would say they are both incredible, don't you think? And if you're still on the fence which one of these two devices to pick, here's a quick rundown that might help. For the iPhone 15 Pro Max, you already have it in your pocket, or an older version, which is totally fine. You also don't need to transfer any files from another device, so you save time. You have multiple camera lenses, which gives you really good zoom. If you like the background to be more blurry, cinematic mode on the iPhone can do that for you. And a shorter focusing distance allows you to get much closer to things like plants and insects. And finally, the portraits on the iPhone 15 Pro Max, especially on the 5x mode, are absolutely stunning. But here's what speaks for the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. You have much better low light performance. It's so good the iPhone really cannot compare. It creates incredibly stable video, especially in low light, where the iPhone also cannot compete because action mode needs a lot of light. There are some specialty video modes on the Pocket 3 like this spin shot. Active Track 6.0 also is incredibly powerful, and it allows you to move around freely while the camera keeps you in the frame. The battery life is also really good, especially if you have the external battery grip and you don't end up using half of your iPhone battery just to take photos and videos. And finally, the DJI Wireless Mic 2 is incredibly convenient and I wouldn't want to miss it. You can't really go wrong picking either one of these two devices, but if you have any more questions, leave them in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching. See you in the next one. Peace.